Sometimes the smallest voice can stop a fortune from vanishing in an instant. I was just a waitress, working late nights to put myself through graduate school, when I served someone who could change my life forever. A man about to spend $100 million on something I knew was a fake. I remember that evening like it was yesterday. The restaurant was buzzing, trays clattering, orders flying in every direction. La Bernard had its usual chaos during the dinner rush, but there was a tension that night I hadn't felt before. Tina, my manager, Marcus, said, pulling me aside, his face tight with nerves, "I need you to handle the Rothschild room tonight. VIP client. Everything has to be flawless." I nodded, my stomach twisting. The Rothschild room wasn't just a dining space. It was the crown jewel of the restaurant. Exclusive, private, and reserved for only the highest profiled guests. One wrong move and it could ruin our reputation. One wrong word and it could ruin me. At 24, I'd been serving tables at La Bernard for 2 years, saving every penny to pay for my graduate degree in art history at Columbia. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent my days learning about priceless masterpieces and my nights carrying trays of overpriced food to people who could buy those masterpieces in a heartbeat. The Rothschild room was set for 4 that night. Crystal chandeliers reflected off polished mahogany walls, and original oil paintings adorned every corner. The smell of truffle oil and roasted duck hung in the air. I did a final check for the table settings when I saw him, Harrison Cox. Even to someone like me, living paycheck to paycheck, his presence was unmistakable. One of the world's wealthiest men, known for an art collection that rivaled any museum. He sat quietly, silver-streaked hair, eyes sharp and calculating, reviewing a leather-bound portfolio with the intensity of someone who missed nothing. "Your guests are ready," Marcus whispered. I took a deep breath, smoothing my uniform, and stepped inside. "Good evening, gentlemen," I said, voice steady despite my racing heart. "I'll be taking care of you tonight." Cox looked up, calm but precise. "Thank you, Tina. We'll be discussing some business during dinner, so take your time with the courses." As I served the first plate, I noticed the atmosphere was different from any dinner I'd seen. These men weren't casually dining. They were focused, calculating, observing. Every gesture, every word seemed rehearsed. One of them referred to the documents in his briefcase with almost religious reverence. "The provenance is undeniable," he said, pouring wine. "We've traced it through 6 collections over 4 centuries." Cox nodded. "And the authentication?" 3 independent experts, ink analysis, parchment dating, calligraphy, all verified. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Those were terms I knew intimately. Authentication, provenance, words I had studied for years, but something in my gut told me this was wrong. During the second course, a dealer carefully opened a flat, climate-controlled case and revealed an illuminated manuscript. Gold leaf gleamed under the warm light. Deep blues and reds highlighted every letter. The manuscript was exquisite. "I present the lost Codex Arius of St. Emmeram," the dealer announced. I nearly dropped the plate. The Codex Arius was legendary, a 9th century gospel book that had vanished from a German monastery during World War II. If genuine, it was priceless. "The asking price is $100 million, Cox said. He leaned forward, eyes scanning the manuscript with the precision of a master collector. As he reached for it, I had a perfect view, and my heart sunk. The gold leaf was too uniform, too perfect. The blues too vibrant, almost synthetic. The calligraphy flawless, mechanically flawless. My grandfather, Dr. Edmund Bailey, had spent decades studying the methods of Victor Clave, a forger whose work had ruined his career. He had trained me to see what others could not. And now I knew. This was Clove's work. I froze. A voice in my memory echoed. Tina, when you know something is wrong, you have a moral obligation to speak up. Could I interrupt $100 million deal? I was just a waitress. I could lose my job or worse. But I couldn't let it happen. Excuse me, I whispered, stepping forward. All eyes turned. I believe that manuscript is a forgery. Laughter erupted from the dealer. Cox raised his hand, silencing them. Who are you? He asked, eyes locked on me. Tina Bailey, sir. My grandfather, Dr. Edmund Bailey, was one of the leading experts on medieval manuscripts. He exposed forgeries by Victor Clove, and this is one of them. For a moment, I thought he would dismiss me, but then I saw recognition flicker in his eyes. Dr. Bailey. Cox studied the manuscript, then back at me. Show me. Trembling, I pointed out the inconsistencies, the mechanical precision of the gold leaf, the unnaturally vibrant pigments, the flawless calligraphy. Each detail confirmed my suspicion. The dealer scoffed. 3 experts verified this. How could you know more? My grandfather taught me to see what others missed. I've studied Clove's methods for years. This is his work. I'd stake my life on it. Cox's eyes didn't leave mine. Finally, he nodded. Wait here. I stepped into the hallway, heart hammering. Minutes stretched into eternity. Then he returned, alone. The dealers have left, he said simply. I'm postponing the purchase, pending further authentication. I exhaled, relief washing over me. I had risked everything and possibly saved $100 million. You'll need my help, he continued, surprising me. You will oversee the examination to verify it fully. Your grandfather's legacy is a part of this, and your eye, it's rare. I want you to see this through. 3 days later, I stood in a lab at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Experts ran every test imaginable: ink spectroscopy, carbon dating, microscopic analysis. Cox stood beside me, silent, watching every step. Dr. Cora Parton, the museum's chief conservator, paused examining the manuscript. The parchment is from the correct period, but the inks show modern synthetic compounds. And the calligraphy. She looked at me, puzzled. Miss Bailey, could you point out the letter formations again? I leaned in. See how every letter is flawless? No human scribe could achieve this. Clove used modern techniques to perfect it. The uniformity is the giveaway. She eyes widened. Extraordinary. I've been examining manuscripts for 20 years, and I missed this entirely. Cox turned to me, expression unreadable. You've just saved me $100 million. I owe you a considerable debt. I shook my head. I don't want anything. I just couldn't let this happen. That night, as I walked home, I realized something had changed. I wasn't just a waitress anymore. I had stepped into a world where knowledge, courage, and instinct mattered more than any uniform I wore. And little did I know, this was only the beginning. Some truths are buried for decades, but when they surface, they change everything. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe. 3 days of intensive testing passed in a blur. Every test I had suggested, microscopic analysis, spectral imaging, even chemical composition of the pigments, was scrutinized in the state-of-the-art lab at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Harrison Cox never left my side, observing with the same intensity that had first unnerved me in the Rothschild room. Dr. Codra Parton, the chief conservator, finally turned to us after hours of examination. The results are conclusive. The parchment is old, authentic, but the inks are modern. The calligraphy confirms what you suspected. This is a sophisticated forgery. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Clove had been meticulous, methodical, fooling even the best experts in the world. And yet, the truth was finally out. Cox studied the manuscript in silence for a long moment, then looked at me. Miss Bailey, you've just prevented a catastrophe. You've saved me $100 million and possibly the integrity of countless collections. I owe you more than I can express. I didn't do it for money, I said softly. I just couldn't let history be stolen. That's what my grandfather always taught me. Cox nodded, which is why I want you with me, full time. Not as a waitress, not as an intern, but as a curator and investigator. Someone who can see what others miss. Someone who can help restore your grandfather's reputation and protect the art world from people like Clove. I froze. My mind raced. A full-time position? A curator for one of the world's most prestigious private collections? Student loans paid off? A chance to continue my grandfather's work? I don't know what to say, I whispered. Say yes, Cox said simply. We'll fund your graduate degree. You'll have a salary, benefits, and most importantly, you'll be making a real difference. Your grandfather's work, his vision, deserves to be honored. The Dr. Edmund Bailey Foundation for Art Authentication. You will lead it. Tears welled up in my eyes. All those years of watching my grandfather struggle, ridiculed and dismissed for trying to expose forgeries, finally his legacy could be restored. Yes, I said, my voice barely audible. Yes, absolutely yes. Over the following months, my life changed completely. I left Le Bernard behind, moved into a stunning apartment near Cox's Connecticut facility, and began my new role. The Cox collection was beyond anything I had imagined. Thousands of priceless pieces, climate-controlled, cataloged meticulously. My first task was painstaking, examining each piece for signs of forgery. Using the techniques my grandfather had taught me, combined with modern scientific analysis, I uncovered 3 pieces that bore Clove's signature method. Small, subtle, yet unmistakable to trained eyes. Cox nodded approvingly when I presented my findings. He said, 3 out of 2,000. Better than I feared, but it proves your grandfather was right. The launch of the Dr. Edmund Bailey Foundation 6 months later was a milestone. Experts from around the globe attended. I gave a speech recounting my grandfather's work, his obsession with truth, and the importance of safeguarding history itself. I told the audience, every artifact has a story. Every stroke, every pigment, every detail tells us about the people who made it, the culture they lived in, and the world they left behind. When forgers create fakes, they don't just steal money, they steal our connection to the past. After the gala, an elderly man approached me, frail, but with the presence that made my heart skip a beat. Miss Bailey, I need to speak with you about your grandfather. I know who you are, I said immediately, feeling my stomach knot. Victor Clove. He nodded. Yes, I'm dying. Perhaps 6 months left. And I need to make amends. I stared. Amends? After everything you did? I destroyed your grandfather's reputation. He admitted, eyes downcast. I created dozens of forgeries and used my influence to discredit him. But I was wrong. I see that now. And I want to help you finish what he started. 2 weeks later, Clove delivered on his promise. He handed me records of 47 forgeries he had placed into the market over a 30-year career. Detailed documentation, locations, collectors' names, everything. Cox and I pored over the files. Some pieces were in major museums, some in private collections that would never admit they'd been fooled. But now, the truth was within our grasp. I want to contact every owner, I said, heart pounding. Every museum, every collector, they deserve to know the truth, and my grandfather deserves his recognition. The revelation made headlines worldwide. Museums quietly removed pieces for re-authentication. Private collectors discovered they had been deceived for decades. The art world was shaken, yet grateful for transparency. Most importantly, my grandfather's reputation was restored. His pioneering work in forgery detection became a standard, taught in authentication labs worldwide. His name, once discredited, was finally honored. A year later, I stood at an international conference on art authentication. Looking out at the audience of the world's leading experts, I felt the weight of the journey behind me. From a nervous waitress to curator, investigator, and director of a foundation bearing my grandfather's name, I realized the truth had a way of surfacing, no matter how deeply buried. After my speech, a young graduate student approached me, bright-eyed and eager. "Miss Bailey, I'm studying Renaissance forgeries. Does your foundation offer internships?" "We do, and we need passionate people like you to continue this work." Watching her excitement reminded me of why I had risked everything that night at Libernard. It wasn't just about stopping a $100 million fraud. It was about protecting history, honoring my grandfather, and passing the torch to the next generation. From that night on, I understood courage isn't measured by the battles you fight publicly, but by the moments when you speak the truth, even when your own future is at stake. The waitress who once served tables in Manhattan was now a guardian of history, a protector of art, and a part of something far bigger than herself. And as I walked through the halls of the Cox collection, I whispered to myself, "Grandpa, we did it. We finally did it."